again, and welcome to another episode of I Want to Talk About This Album. And today, it's going to be the first ever, I'm going to call this a pop-up episode. It's going to be the first ever pop-up episode that I've done. I will explain that very shortly. But before I do, I'm going to continue with my new thing, and I'm going to ask you to please, I'm going to beg you, I'm going to be a beggar, not a thief, but a beggar. Subscribe to the channel. I've got a lot of great content for you. Some you'll like, maybe some you won't like. I don't know. Try subscribing anyway. It doesn't hurt. Do me the favor. Everybody else on YouTube does it, so I'm going to do it. Subscribe, and maybe more importantly, like the video, watch the video, leave it running in the background, do whatever you have to do to get me into this. You know, they call it an algorithm on YouTube, which, and everybody in YouTube wants to get into the algorithm. It's like surfing or, you know, catching a wave or something. And I think in order to catch the algorithm, you need thousands of views. I typically, maybe I'm lucky to get triple digits with these. I think I've mentioned that before. So I don't know if I'll get that vaunted algorithm. And I don't even know if vaunted is the right word. But you know what to do. Like and subscribe. Do whatever you have to do. And I thank you for it. So today's episode is a pop-up episode. What I mean by that is I had no intention of doing an episode today or this week. And I'll try to explain that quickly why. Today for me, and I'll give you a little bit of insight into the production on these videos, what goes into them. Today for me, I've never once done them out of order. I record them and I put them up in the order that they were recorded. Today is going to be the first exception. So for me, today is Monday, September 16th. It's Independence Day in Mexico. So Feliz Dia de la Independencia for my Mexican friends. So today is Monday, September 16th. Typically, I would be hiking right now, but because it's Independence Day, my friend Eric that I go hiking with, he told me he couldn't go today because he was doing something with, he was having a family barbecue with his, I guess his wife's family. Not his family because he's from Belgium, but his wife's family was having a barbecue for Independence Day, so he had to cancel today. So I thought, all right, well, I'll instead of wasting my time because I'm still not getting work, I thought I would do this video. Now, I had already done, and this is where I'm getting out of order for the first time. I did an episode last week. Typically, when I go hiking, I'd go hiking on Monday. I put the hiking video up on Tuesday. I have an I Want to Talk About This Album episode for Thursday and another one for Sunday. And then again, hiking on Monday and the video on Tuesday, etc. In these last several weeks that I haven't been hiking because my friend Eric was in Indonesia. He came back last week. I've been doing 3 episodes of I Want to Talk About This Album because I've had time because I'm not working. Those have been Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday. So I did an episode the other day that I had put up to schedule for Thursday. Are you keeping track here? Because the hike that I was going to do today would be up Tuesday. And then I Want to Talk About Some would be up Thursday. So that one I'm still going to leave for Thursday because I did mention something in that episode for something that was going to happen the next day, Friday. So now if I put that episode up on Tuesday, that'll screw everything up. All my good planning would go to waste. So I'm doing this episode today, Monday, and I'll put it up tomorrow, Tuesday. Does everybody understand? All right, so getting to this episode, today it's going to be Judas Priest Unleashed in the East. And I talked about Black Sabbath Past Lives a month or maybe 5 weeks ago, I don't know. And I said that I had some live albums coming up. I think I said I had 7 or 8 or something. And this was one of them. And there are 2 things that I don't like about this album. One is more before even listening to the album. The other one is related to the album. And I'll talk about those, I guess, right now. The thing that I don't like about this album, and I talked about this a little bit with Black Sabbath Past Lives, is for me, and I love live albums. I know a lot of people hate them, which I understand. I think if you're a metal fan, you probably love live music and going to concerts and everything, so I don't know how people can't like live albums. But, you know, there's always been, and I can hear some thunder. I don't know if the camera microphone is picking up, but it's quite loud for me. I might lose power here shortly. The thing about live albums is, the argument has always been whether they should be really live or should they be touched up. And I'm kind of in the middle. I don't know why it can't be. And people say, well, I don't want a live album that sucks. You know, they should go touch it up and they should, you know, make it sound better. And other people say, no, I want it completely live on even if it sounds bad, I want it live. And I think, why not in the middle? If you're a good band and you play really well live, and especially if it was for that recording, put it out, and you don't need to do any, studio magic, I guess they would call it, and everybody loves the live album. So this one, and I'll continue with that now, and then I'll get to the thing that I don't like about it after listening to it. And I've got it here, by the way. So what I don't like about this album is I talked about this when I did, maybe it was Past Lives. Past Lives was 18 songs, which is great. That's a lot of songs, and it's 2 records. But it wasn't from a full show. It was taken from not just different shows, but different tours over the years. So it's kind of like a collection of groups of songs from different eras of the band. It doesn't flow like a live album should. For me, the best live albums are albums that are full concerts, whether they're an official release like, there was a standalone album like Kiss Alive 1 and 2, although I know those weren't exactly, 100% complete, but more or less. Like I know the show for Alive, they were at least missing Let Me Know, and you can hear that elsewhere. And Alive 2, they recorded Take Me, and what else was recorded during that tour but not on the album? I can't remember. Anyway, I like those, and I like Live After Death and Scorpions Worldwide Live and things like that. Down, Diary of a Mad Band, although I think that was taken from 2 shows also, but I think it was a full show. And that's a pretty rough sounding album, but I like it because it does represent, it feels like you're at the live show, even though Phil's voice on that, he had some problems. But I like that album a lot, Diary of a Mad Band. So that's one problem I have with Judas Priest Unleashed in the East. It's only 9 songs. So, I mean, even regardless of anything else, 9 songs, unless you're an opening band, which Judas Priest was not at this point, it's not a live album. So for me, just that doesn't make it feel like, to me, it should be a snapshot of a show, a souvenir of a show, like a tour book when you used to get those big tour books. And 9 songs, for me, it just doesn't cut it. Now, the other part, listening to it, that I don't like about it, although some people love it, it sounds really, really, really fixed up. I don't know how much of it is. Something I do remember, and I never heard this album at all until today. I listened to it today out for a walk, exercising for about 70 minutes, and then I listened to it again. I just finished 10 minutes ago before I started this video, as I always do. It sounds really, really, really doctored. It sounds like it was completely recorded in the studio. I do remember Rob Halford saying, I don't know if this was in his book or if it was in an interview somewhere, but it was definitely long, it was somewhat in recent times. He did say that his vocals were recorded in the studio. And I think from what I remember, they were 100% recorded in the studio. They were recorded live. Either he didn't like them, or they were lost, or they weren't recorded properly or something. So he went into the studio and recorded his vocals 100% live again. And there are a few points where it's to me pretty obvious, but maybe that's only because I know that they were re-recorded. Maybe if I didn't know that they had been re-recorded, maybe I wouldn't notice, because I pay more attention to it now. As far as I can remember, he said the music was live. Maybe it is live. I don't know enough about Judas Priest live to know how well they played. This almost sounds too perfect. It just sounds not just no mistakes, which is good. If a band can play with no mistakes, that's great. Although I don't mind some mistakes either. But it just sounds too, I don't know how else to say it, too clean, too sanitized, too perfect. It sounds just like a studio version. And also just the crowd noise and everything. It doesn't. It was recorded in Japan, and Japanese crowds are notorious for not being loud. They clap politely when the song ends, and that's it. There are a couple of songs on this album that I'll draw attention to why I think that's also maybe fake, or why there's fake crowd noise added. What else can I say about this? And also, there's no banter. You don't need Paul Stanley's ridiculous banter between every song and introducing every song. And maybe that's just kind of how Rob Halford is, or was back then. He doesn't really say too much. But to me, it just doesn't feel like a live album. Even the photo it's obviously, and I don't mind this for the photo, the photo is obviously staged too. And I didn't know until many years later, after Kiss Alive came out. Remember, I was like 5 years old when that came out, and I was 6 or 7 when I got it. It wasn't until a long time after that that I discovered that that photo on the cover of Alive, was not from an actual concert, that it was from a photo session. All those photos were staged and they were posing and everything like this. And this is pretty obvious too, although I don't care about that. And something that I swear I didn't know, I got this record probably last year for sure. I got this in 2023 when I was on my vinyl kick. I haven't bought a record now for months. But I swear I didn't know until then, or somewhat recently, that this was subtitled Live in Japan. I thought it was just Judas Priest Unleashed in the East, but it is subtitled Live in Japan. Maybe because it's written horizontally instead of vertically like this, or maybe I just never really paid attention to it. But yeah, it's Judas Priest Unleashed in the East, Live in Japan. So I have kind of mixed feelings about this album, and some people, and if you want, maybe this is a good opportunity to talk about which do people prefer. Do you prefer, I've heard people say, no, I love a live album, and I know this album is worshipped by a lot of people. Some people would even say it's their favorite Judas Priest album. They love how it sounds. Now, maybe if I had listened to this record when it came out, or shortly after it came out when I was a dumb kid, maybe I would have loved it, because back then I wouldn't have known about the studio magic stuff, and then by the time I found out, it would have been too late, just like with Kiss Alive. Although I think Kiss Alive, I've heard the original Kiss Alive source tapes, and they're not that much different. I mean, the Alive version is not that much different from the source tape. So for me personally, a live album, I don't mind if they touch it up a little bit. If the guitars went down a little bit in one song, if they want to boost that back up in the studio, I don't mind that. Or if they want to, just kind of fix it up a little bit, I don't mind that. I guess what I don't really like is the band going into the studio and playing any instruments after. And maybe I don't even know. Maybe that doesn't matter. But I don't like the idea of going into the studio to change the volume or the mixing or something. That's okay. But to actually play the music, to replay the music, I don't know if I like that so much. And people say, well, it sounds great. Yeah, it sounds great, but it's under the guise of a live album. And to me, it's a little bit dishonest. Play your instruments well, be a good band, and put the record out if there's some mistakes on it. I mean, for me, I don't care, but some people say, I don't like hearing mistakes. Well, I don't like hearing them, but it doesn't bother me so much. Anyway, so that's what I think about Unleashed in the East. I will open it up now to talk about it, going through it track by track. I guess most of what I have to say about this is just the songs in general, not particularly the versions as live compared to the studio. As I said, I only heard this for the first time today. And as you may know, if you've been paying attention to my Judas Priest episodes of I want to talk about this album, I'm not familiar enough to draw any comparisons between, unlike Kiss, between the studio recordings and the live version. So let me see what's inside here. Oh, it has the lyrics. Unusual for a live album to have the lyrics. Iron Maiden Live After Death had that too. And was there something else I did recently? Oh, Y&T Open Fire also had the lyrics. That's unusual. And Y&T Open Fire, I mentioned that. I think it sounds really, really good. I'm not sure if that was because Y&T was a really, really good live band or how much was redone. I have the feeling the Y&T Open Fire to me sounds and feels more live than Unleashed in the East. This feels, as I said, very sanitized and sterile and clean. So there's the lyrics, and this is the same pictures on the album cover, right? Yeah, on the back album. So there's Rob Halford, and you can't see who's the drummer on this album back then. I don't even know. Anyway, he's blocked, as drummers have a tendency to be. Usually they're blocked by their drums, but in this case, whoever it is blocked by Rob Halford on both the front and the back. Who was the drummer on this? It was Les Binks. I guess Dave Holland joined shortly after this, and I think this was on the Hellbent for Leather tour. And again, I'm not familiar enough with Judas Priest's history to know when the last album with Les Binks was and when Dave Holland joined, or what came after Hell Bent for Leather. Was it British Steel? I'm not sure. Anyway, I will get to this track by track, and I did take notes because I wanted to be a little bit specific and didn't want to miss anything. And also, I just listened to it twice for the first time today. So the first song is Exciter, and it's from Stained Class. Oh, I think I didn't finish that thought. Hell Bent for Leather, which was the tour I think they were on. This album was taken from. Only one song out of the 9 was taken from Hell Bent for Leather. So the first song is Exciter, Stand By for Exciter, from Stained Class. This one, the very intro, the first 5 seconds or so you hear on this album, totally sounds like a studio record. It doesn't sound, I've been to a lot of concerts, and to me it just doesn't, I don't get that feeling of, the lights being down and this music coming on and the band coming on. I could be wrong, but it sounds, maybe the fact that Rob Halford said his vocals were totally re-recorded, maybe that planted the seed of me being very suspicious of this album. But yeah, the intro sounds very, very studio, and the line of which Venom stole, I guess, lay down your souls to the gods rock and roll, from black metal, which on this one of what song were I talking about? Exciter. Fall to your knees and repent if you please. Fall to your knees and repent if you please. To me, that line, and you can hear the crowd kind of singing along with that too, which, as I said, I think Japanese people, probably especially back then, didn't sing along to it. So to me, that also sounded like a very fake crowd sing-along. Maybe I'm looking too much, but Exciter as a song, whether it's this version or the Stained Class version, Exciter is a really good song. I love it. Next is Running Wild. Now this is the only one from this record that is from, that the original version was on Hell Bent for Leather, which I'm sure this album was taken from. For me, both at the beginning of the song and the end of the song, the Japanese crowd seems a little bit too loud. Again, I don't know if that was boosted or if it was taken from another crowd, if it was just a stock noise, but it just seems a little bit fake. But again, as a song, I do like Running Wild. Next is Sinner. I love Sinner, man. This is from Sin After Sin. This is, I can't say it's one of my favorite Judas Priest songs, but I do like it a lot. And this one again, maybe I'm just paranoid about this. I swear, especially in the intro, that I can hear 3 guitars, which I shouldn't be hearing 3 guitars. At the beginning, you can clearly hear, and I listen to almost all my music with headphones, so I hear things quite clearly. In the intro, you can clearly hear 2 guitars, and then when the drums and the bass come in, I swear you can hear a 3rd guitar. Maybe that's just me, and maybe I'm looking too closely at it. Judas Priest fans, tell me what you think. Oh, and also another thing about this song, and there's something that he kind of whispers, sinner, and then he kind of sinner, and then he whispers something. And he does it in this song. He doesn't quite whisper, but he does sing it. To me, when he does that kind of whisper, the quieter voice, and then goes back to sinner, it sounds to me like that would be just impossible to go from that whisper instantly, that transition from the whisper, whatever he says, into sinner. I don't think, to me, that also sounds like it was, and I know Halford admitted it, but I think, to me, this is pretty clear that was, even the vocals were just re-recorded, but an extra track was added. But I do like Sinner. Next is The Ripper. The Ripper is possibly, and there's another song on this album, on Unleashed in the East, that is possibly my favorite Judas Priest song out of all of them. Oh, The Ripper is awesome. And it's on Sad Wings of Destiny. There are 4 songs. 4 out of 9 were from Sad Wings of Destiny. And I really like Sad Wings of Destiny. I would say is my second favorite Judas Priest album. First is probably got to be Defenders of the Faith. And then Sad Wings of Destiny. Maybe my favorite song. But again, there's a part on here. The opening line, you're in for a surprise. You're in for a shot. And then he screams, shot. He screams. In London town streets. Again, I feel like when he goes from the you're in for a shock, and then he does that very, very high-pitched scream, which I love, and then immediately goes back to in London town streets. To me, it sounds like that was recorded in two separate tracks. But yeah, The Ripper is a great song. And the first time I ever heard The Ripper, which was, I guess, one of the first Judas Priest songs I ever heard. I've talked about this record, referenced this record recently. Dallas, he knows what I'm talking about. There was a record, a Canadian record called Metal for Breakfast. It was a compilation record. And it was when I talked about Power Slave a couple of weeks ago. And I got, for my birthday in 1984, I got Power Slave, Out of the Cellar, and Metal for Breakfast. And Metal for Breakfast was a Canadian compilation album with a really weird selection of songs on there. Y&T Mean Streak was on there, Anvil, Forged in Fire, Lee Aaron, Metal Queen, Blotto, Metalhead, I'm a Metalhead, if anybody remembers that song. What else was on that? I don't remember. But The Ripper was on Metal for Breakfast too, and that was where I first heard it. I don't know why all those bands were on it. I don't think they were on the same... maybe they were on Attic Records? Maybe that's what it was. Lee Aaron, I think, was on Attic. Anvil was possibly on Attic. I think at that point in Canada, Judas Priest was on Attic. Y&T, Mean Streak, I'm not sure. But that was where I first heard The Ripper, and loved it then, love it now. Possibly my favorite Judas Priest song. Next is the Green Manalishi. Now I know this is a Fleetwood Mac cover. I think I still have never heard the Fleetwood Mac version. Maybe that's why I can sit. To me, this is a Judas Priest song. It sounds like Judas Priest. It's kind of got the spirit of Judas Priest. I love it. This is a really, really good song. It's real like heavy metal. It's a real heavy metal song, despite the fact that it's a Fleetwood Mac song. It really fits Judas Priest's style and their sound. And Cadaver, who I may talk about shortly, and I've talked about 3 episodes in the past. Cadaver does a cover also of the Green Manalishi, subtitled The Two-Pronged Crown, and I still don't know what a Manalishi is. I guess it's some kind of demon or something? Not sure, and I don't know what a two-pronged crown is. But yeah, the Green Manalishi, great song, despite the fact that it's a cover. Now, the next song, this is another thing I don't like about this song. The next song is Diamonds and Rust, and this is a cover too. And to me, it's just a little bit odd that out of 9 songs on this record, 2 were covers, and especially that they're back-to-back. I guess on the record, Green Manalishi with the Two-Pronged Crown ends the first side, and then Diamonds and Rust opens the second side, so maybe it doesn't feel, on the record, it doesn't feel as much like they're back-to-back. But on the CD or digitally, they're definitely back-to-back. That's a little bit odd. 2 out of 9 songs to be covers. This one, I don't like it nearly as much, comparing covers. I don't like this nearly as much as Diamonds and Rust. I mean, as Green Manalishi with the Two-Pronged Crown. But it's okay. But it is the second Judas Priest song I ever heard. I talked about this with Metal Dave Glessner, who was on the show a couple of weeks ago. We talked about Screaming for Vengeance. And in that episode, I mentioned my introduction to Judas Priest was, I bought the single, the 45 7-inch single of You Got Another Thing Coming from Screaming for Vengeance, and the B-side of that was a live version of Diamonds and Rust. I don't know if it was the version that was taken. I don't know if that version on the You've Got Another Thing Coming single, I don't know if it was the same, if it was taken from Unleashed in the East, but it was a live version, so I assume it was. And I was not a big fan of it then, even when I was 12 years old. And it's okay, but maybe they should have put something else on this record instead of a second cover. But yeah, Diamonds and Rust, it's fine. So-so. Next is Victim of Changes, and I might have to rescind what I said about The Ripper being my favorite Judas Priest song, because Victim of Changes, maybe those are 1 and 2 in whatever order. They would maybe flip-flop or something. Man, Victim of Changes is so good, and I had never heard this song. Remember, I'm not a big Judas Priest fan. I didn't hear this song until 2004, and the reason I didn't hear it until 2004, and by the way, I love any version of this. I only know 2. I know this version that I just heard for the first time today, and I know the studio version from Sad Wings of Destiny. I first heard the song in 2004, which was the first and only time I saw Judas Priest live. And I think I don't know if it's the only reason, but a big part of the reason why I went to that concert, that was in Toronto at back then it was called the Molson Amphitheater. Now it's called the Budweiser Stage, I think, or Budweiser Amphitheater. Budweiser Stage, I think it's called. And Slayer was opening, and I was and still am a big Slayer fan. and I wanted to see Slayer as much as Priest. And I thought, this is a good opportunity for me to see Judas Priest too. So I went and I saw that, Judas Priest and Slayer. And Judas Priest played, I guess as they always do, Victim of Changes. And the opening line, I love that. The intro, it's I guess it's both of them, KK and Glenn Tipton playing at the same time. Dual guitars. And I loved it. And then the opening line, Whiskey Woman, don't you know that you are driving me insane? Oh my God. Whiskey Woman, don't you know that you are driving me insane? And his voice goes up. Dun, 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 and the crowd exploded. That was one of my really great, a lot of concerts I've been to. I have like really no memory of them. I kind of remember maybe where I was sitting or something, but I remember that very, very well. The crowd just exploded. People started headbanging and taking their shirts off and waving them in the air when Halford hit that, don't you know that you are driving me insane? And then the music came in and it was, like this, and it was just fucking awesome. I loved it. Great concert memory, and ever since then, Victim of Changes has been one of my favorite Judas Priest songs and remains as one of my favorite Judas Priest songs. Next is Genocide, also from Sad Wings of Destiny. This I think is much better live than the studio version. It's extended. I think in the studio version, the vocals come in fairly early, maybe 15, 20, 30 seconds into the song. In this one, maybe they extend the intro before the vocals come in to a minute and a half. And it has a more anthemic feel to it. It just sounds more energetic, upbeat, a little bit more intense. I like this version of Genocide on Unleashing These way better than the studio version on Sad Wings. Regardless of whether it's doctored or not, I love it. And then the last song is Tyrant, also from Sad Wings, and pretty much the same as Genocide. Much better live. It just has more energy. As same with the Kiss songs. I've talked about this many times. All the Kiss songs on live, every single one, without any exceptions, are better on a live than they are on the first album, Hotter Than Hell and Dressed to Kill. And Tyrant is like that too. Just more energetic, more powerful, more intense or something. Excellent. So that's it. So to me, it feels, this album Unleashed in the East, it feels kind of incomplete. 9 songs is not a concert. There's no interaction. There's no sing-alongs. There's no guitar or drum solos. And not that you need that, but it just, and again, maybe the seed was planted knowing that a lot of this, at least the vocals for sure, were 100% re-recorded. Maybe that kind of planted the seed. But yeah, I mean, it sounds good. I guess I have a very different viewpoint of it than you. If you're a big Judas Priest fan, you're probably going, "What is this guy crazy? What the hell is he talking about?" Unleashed in the East is a classic album, and I'm sure it is for you, and I can see that. But for me, it's just a kind of an incomplete. It's like a collection of Judas Priest songs, meant to sound live, and it's fine, I guess. But it's for me, it's not the legendary album that. And I don't hold it in the highest esteem like many Judas Priest fans do. So there it is. This is my first foray into Judas Priest live. And I think this will be the last Judas Priest. I think this is going to close the door on Judas Priest. I have no more studio albums to talk about, no more live albums, no more compilation albums, no more B-sides, no more box sets, no more CDs, nothing. This is the last one, I think, for Judas Priest. And this is called Unleashed in the East, subtitled Live in Japan.